you know. Such a pretty smile, I want to see it once in a while. But you were right for me. You were right for me.
Everything Jingle Bell.
Everything Jingle Bell. Okay, you ready to rumble?
Yeah.
Okay, let's open with the Serenity Prayer. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, courage to change the things we can, and wisdom to know the difference. Well, welcome to Real Raw Recovery. I believe it's episode 13. And I'm Joe Tilley in sunny Newcastle.
I'm Tyler Tilley in Bangkok, Thailand.
Nice. I say sunny because it's been raining all morning and the sun's just kind of peeking out now.
Nice.
So, okay, is it me or you? Daily reflection.
Go for it.
All right, I shall. Equal rights. At one time or another, most AA groups go on rule-making benders. After a time, fear and intolerance subside, and we realize we do not wish to deny anyone his chance to recover from alcoholism. We wish to be just as inclusive as we can, never exclusive. AA tradition, how it developed, page 10, 11, 12. AA offered me complete freedom and accepted me into the fellowship for myself. Membership did not depend upon conformity, financial success, or education. And I am so grateful for that. I often ask myself if I extend the same equality to others or if I deny them the freedom to be different. Today, I try to replace my fear and intolerance with faith, patience, love, and acceptance. I can bring these strengths to my AA group, my home, and my office. I make an effort to bring my positive attitude everywhere that I go. I have neither the right nor the responsibility to judge others. Depending on my attitude, I can view newcomers to AA, family members, and friends as menaces or as teachers. When I think of some of my past judgments, it is clear how my self-righteousness caused me spiritual harm. Yeah, self-righteousness, thinking that I know better than other people. Yeah, thinking that I know what is better for other people, thinking that my way is the right way, your way is the highway. My way, highway. Any thoughts?
I think it's easier said than done. Like, it's pretty easy to accept people's opinions and their choices and directions in life and where they're going and what they believe in and what they choose to do with their life. It's pretty easy to separate yourself,
Right.
where it becomes foggy and sometimes unclear is when you're either working with somebody or when you're actually trying to accomplish something, like whether if it's a team or some sort of interaction where you have to come up with one either end goal or final resolution or something, right? So that's where it's easier said than like, so it makes a lot of sense when you said it, like when you don't want to judge, you don't want to profile, you don't want to stereotype, and you don't want to like I don't think, yeah, like it's easy to say like you never really need self-righteousness per se. Like I can agree with that. But where I need to be like, no, I'm really sure we need to go in this direction, is also really valuable. So it's balancing that. Like when you do have to take the leadership role, when you do have to take the role of, and then things can happen. Like, you know, it's like, even let's take it back to the AA level. Like, let's say one group goes, I want to have this reading, as trivial as it is, and one side of the group says, I don't want to do that reading, and so they start a new group.
Yeah.
So it's really important to talk about putting the principles into context and also real life, and also then adding the elements of when you do have conflict and you do have differences of opinion, what's the best way to come to A, compromise, and B, if you can't compromise. Like, so like when you can't compromise and if the other person, oh, you're just set in your ways and they set you up to seem self-righteous, that's not always the case.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's really important to think like, okay, so I'm going to take the lead here. I'm going to either like, you know, do some trailblazing or choose some, because like, especially like, yeah, again, it's really nice to say we're is inclusive. And I like how it says, as we wish to be just as inclusive as we can, never exclusive. Yeah, I love it. Like it makes a lot of sense. It opens the doors, it keeps it fresh, and it keeps it without like having a ruler. But on a personal level, I'm not going to be always as inclusive as I can. I don't have time for it. B, I have common sense, and C, it's just not who I am. So in some sense, and then it's about picking and choosing when that needs to be applicable and when you can let it go. Like, yeah, this guy wants to come along for lunch. Yeah, no problem. And there's other times where like, no, you're not coming for lunch. I have an agenda and you don't fit into it. So it's just like, you know, I just think it's like sometimes when there's like really ideologies like this, where you would have like as inclusive as you can, but then putting it into your own day-to-day, or even if you put it in your group, you're presented with conflict. And when you're presented with conflict, do you sit in your chair and just shut your mouth, or do you go, hey, well, no, actually, we're going to do it this way. Who's with me? And then people put up their hand. Yeah, I'm with you. And then someone will be like, no, you're an idiot. So it's like, that's the reality. So it'd be nice if there was 2 more paragraphs indicating. So now when you do have like, because some people, it would indicate like, and you get this all the time, whether it's the political spectrum or like, you would say, well, like, I think you should have the Lord's Prayer. And then someone would say, well, that's da-da-da. And then someone's going to call you like, you know, you're judging this and that. Like, well, yes, I am. I'm clearly judging. I disagree with you. Like I'm clearly making a judgment call here that I think is the best for the group or best for me. So it's just like, be really like, really look at when they use words like judgment. I believe like we differ when you said, remember, like you say, I have no control. I don't like to judge. I like to say the opposite. I have control and I do like to judge. It's really important for me to do those things and to have control. So that's where I would stand on, is like, yes, idyllic, no, what's the word?
Ideology, ideally
is great. And I agree with like 98% of it. I just think that context, and then, okay, so what, like, let's, for example, and you know what I mean? And it's just important to look at, okay, so when is it important to judge? When is it important to profile and stereotype and add the element of controlling the situation? And because like, if you feel like you're dialed in, you're in a really good spot, and you're going to open a new group because you don't like the old, like, you know, that's great. but you're making a judgment call. You're making changes. You're in control, and you are not necessarily being exclusive, but there's a lot to that. That's all. I'm just trying to open it up to dialogue there.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of like you want to pick your battles. You know, okay, if I'm gonna, you know, using that group, group thing as an analogy, you know, say business meetings, and you're having conversations about certain things your group is doing or not doing, and you know, within that, you know, the context of that, you're saying that maybe there's some things in the group that really bother you. There's a list of them, and there are things that you want to change. So you approach your group and say, hey, I think we should stop reading this and we should start reading this. And I think we should, you know, like there's 3 or 4 things that we should stop reading, and 3 or 4 things that we should start reading. And these are things I don't like. Now you have to pick, like for me, if I'm really strong, you know, really adamant in getting my way, like I really want to have my way in something, if there's 1 or 2 things that are really important to me, it's probably good for me if I'm willing to let a couple of things go if I get the ones that are really important for me. You know, I don't have to have my own way about everything. You know, sometimes I want my own way about everything, but I don't have to have my own way about everything. Like, for example, okay, I'll give you one example that I remember a number of years ago. I was a member of this group, and there was a poem we read in the group, and the poem was Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow. And in this particular version that we were reading in our group, it had every man instead of every one or every person or whatever, every one. And so I suggest we change it to every one, because I felt it uncomfortable. I felt uncomfortable when a woman got up to the front of the room and was reading every man. Now, if you look at the way the Big Book was written in 1939, and you know, it's he and him and all that other stuff throughout the book, there's a lot of that. You know, like it turned out that we had a discussion and then a vote, and it turned out we did end up changing it, because that actually, and there's a newcomer pamphlet in AA, and in that there was a copy. I don't know if it's still there, but it used to be a copy of the of that One Day at a Time prayer, or sorry, poem, and in that particular version, it did say any one rather than any man. So, you know, in a case like that, when you've got literature from central office in New York, it's not too hard to make a change like that. You know, you can just point to that version and say, look, this is a version they use in New York, and so it was easy to make that change. But you know, I also was, I suppose I was willing, you know, at the time to let it go. And you know, that if it was voted against that, you know, I was willing to go with the go with the flow, go with the majority. I wasn't going to make that a stand, but it was something I wanted to get changed because I felt uncomfortable, you know, and that's kind of like not a real big deal, not a real big issue. But if there's something in my group that I do want to, you know, make sure we maintain, you know, and another one is this is actually a different group I was a member of at that particular time. We had the promises, the 9-step promises, numbered 1 to 12, and they're not numbered in the Big Book, and it's not necessarily 12 promises, but for some reason we had adopted them and turned them into 12 promises, and I didn't like that because, you know, that's not how it's written in the Big Book. So I wanted to change that, and I wanted to just call it period the promises, not the 12 promises, just the promises, and not have them numbered, because to me that was like that's, you know, creating something that doesn't exist in the big book. You're creating these 12 promises out of, something that doesn't exist. And there's not 12 promises in the big book. There's hundreds of promises in the big book. And so that's, to say that this is a 12, and there's promises after each step, that coincide with each step. So anyway, that was my argument, and we ended up changing that as well. So those are things that were bothering me. I had an issue with, and I really wanted it to change. And who knows what would have happened if we had had discussion and then and decided not to change those things. And maybe I would have got mad and changed groups, or maybe I would have been okay with it. I don't know, because those are issues that I felt were important, and even though in the big scheme of things they're really not, but to me they felt important at the time. And I don't know how I would have reacted if it didn't work out, but in my favor, but it did.
Well, it's pretty hard to veto the mayor of AA.
Mayor.
If Joe Tilly,
Mayor Joe
wants a change made, by golly, a change will be made. and then, okay, so let's say I'm sitting at that business meeting and you presented those two changes, and you guys you felt compelled to go around and ask what each person's stance was on those issues.
Yep.
It's my turn, so let's imagine you get around to me.
Yeah.
What do you think I say?
Get rid of it completely.
No.
I don't know.
You guys do whatever the fuck you want. We'll see you next Tuesday.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It doesn't change it. Like, you're talking about picking your battles. And one of the greatest things that I'm so grateful for is the older I get and the more air I suck on this planet, I realize I just don't have time. I'm sorry. I'll contribute where I feel I can be of value. And that, unfortunately, is a very narrow window.
Yeah.
And so I don't have a stake in all these different things. And it's like, if you're not keeping the doors open, let me know. And then I'll go to a different group.
Mm-hmm.
So you would look at that in two ways. You'd say, well, it doesn't sound like you're being you're not participating or being, but what I've learned is that the earth keeps spinning, baby. So if it's not one meeting, it's another. And at the end of the day,
mm-hmm.
those are just not things that, it's not even just pique my interest. It's that they're going to sort themselves out, whether someone speaks up or not. And so it's just keep your mouth shut and let the world spin. And that's where I like to let go. And when it comes down to things that affect me and that I'm not going to be able to accept and get through, well, then now you're going to have a battle.
Mm-hmm.
And readings at a meeting are not on that agenda.
Right.
I don't care what you like.
You
want to read the newspaper up there,
just the front page headlines
of the Toronto Sun.
Mm-hmm. Or the Inquirer.
Yeah, it's kind of like if it goes off the rails, there's going to be that's the amazing thing is it doesn't mean that I don't contribute. It's just those are not where I shine, and nor do I want to. And I'm so grateful that I remember I was at a business meeting once and the guy said, everyone was arguing. Everyone had an opinion. And I was just so kind of baffled that most of these men and women were in the case, probably double my age at the time, were just going squirrely. And I was just I could see the forest for the trees. And I was able to really digest what was happening and and how things were getting so spun out of control, where at the end of the day, there's fucking 500 meetings in Toronto. So we're doing all right. So if you guys can't unfortunately get your shit together and it did happen to collapse, again, we'll be okay. And the church will be okay. And, the meeting will either continue or it won't. But for anything above and beyond that should not be of concern at the end of the day. And if you can't settle down, someone should have been able to quickly just go, let's table it because we don't have fucking time for this. Because next month you won't even care anyway. You'll be worried about someone else's body odor or some trivial bullshit. Like people are such fucking apes. And and the moment that, I'm not saying I get exempt from that claim, but it was just interesting to see, kind of like when the chimp finds the stick in the rock and they learn how to hit each other. It's just like, you see it so clearly at a meeting when people are just like, I've got something to say.
Yeah, and a lot of it has to do with our own personal control issues, right? And I think addicts and alcoholics have a lot of issues with control. Basically, the ultimately, I'm trying to control my feelings by ingesting something into my body. So I have a control issue right there. So we tend to have control issues, and some of us, do a lot of work on trying to let those that control go and not be attached to it. And some of us don't, and some of us also, if I have control issues, which I do, and I see somebody else trying to control the way the group is headed or whatever, it bothers me, and so and the reason it bothers me so much is because I have the same kind of control issues. So, I'm having a hard time letting it go. But sometimes, when I can be, the bigger man and allow it to allow this things to unfold the way they're supposed to, I think I'm happier, but when they're, for example, when there's somebody in the group who is consistently trying to control the way things are headed, I do find that taxing after a while. And I guess my options are either to stop going to the business meetings or change groups or wait until that particular controlling individual leaves, which often happens.
When
or
they
just
die,
or
there'll
just
be a power vacuum and you can fight to be the new king.
Yeah. I don't want to be the king. And I guess maybe some days I do. But I don't really want to be the king. I mean, if you ask me right now, I don't want to be the king. I don't want to be the king. And I hope I never want to be the king. Because that's how it works. There are no kings in 12-step programs of any kind. There are no kings. The whole idea is the inverted pyramid, so the power is with the mass at the top, not the individuals who are at the head office and the bottom. Yeah.
So that's like, I just don't have a stake in that. So I would quickly turn it to the rest of my life, which is going to be like 98%. And so that's why it's important to go. Yeah, in the past, when I judge someone, especially incorrectly, it can be a problem. But what happens when I judge somebody correctly? And I was like, yeah, that was a good call, man. Like, I saw that coming a mile away. And I think I can eliminate saying self-righteous as long as I can be clear and humble about that and go, hey, I was wrong. I judged you, man, and I thought you were out to lunch or however you want to present it, and I was wrong. And often I don't say anything, so I don't really even know an amends in a sense, but I definitely am now open and willing to engage with the individual that I previously thought was an idiot. because I'm not much of a like if I think someone's an idiot, I don't always just tell everyone in the room, hey, I think that guy's an idiot. So I might have judgments in my own mind, and then if I was wrong, I think it's really important that I go, hey, this guy seems all right, and I'm gonna engage, and he seems like a team player, and cool. But when I was like, hey, this guy's, I just think is not useful for many reasons. I don't need to A, engage, and B, I don't find it like, so then it's just easy for me to cut ties right away. I don't need to like explore that. I don't have time. And that's me making a judgment call. And hey, if turns out that we do have a new experience and a new interaction down the road, again, I can I don't mind open, like I won't necessarily always go, oh no, I can't. I'll open the door a little bit, but if I see the same shit that was going on prior to that, then it's just close the door again. It's not like I'm in lack of people in my life. So when I make a judgment call or like even on a situation, that cognitive ability is to just kind of throw it out the window is so silly. And so it's just kind of like, let's get clear when you say, like, because again, I'm going to pull it back up a little earlier in the reading. It says, today I try to replace my fear and intolerance with faith, patience, love, and acceptance. Yeah, I love it. And I think, but it just needs to be balanced. All those things are about balance. I don't like them to be one-sided for no reason. I really like to think things through and be clear about what needs patience and what needs to be rushed, what needs love and what needs to be abstained, what needs acceptance, what needs to be changed, what needs faith and what needs, like, again, to be abstained. Because it's not everything for me. It's just not a blanket statement like that.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's causing me a problem, I'll use my higher power, my counsel, my inner strength to sort through it. If it's causing me fear or it's causing me to be intolerant, yeah, like that's where I become one with everyone as well, because that's gonna happen. But I also like to use the gift of my mind and myself and my journey and my experience to be able to balance those things out. I'm not on this planet seeking to be at one with everything. It's not my intention, and I've also kind of had the experience of being in that position, like not for long periods of time, but where I've kind of focused on those angles and those. So I'm not just kind of speaking out of my ass. I've had moments in my life where I believed in that kind of mentality more than I do now.
Well, you've got experience. You've got like many years now of experiencing life in a sober state and not being controlled by your addiction. So your judgment calls, have a little more validity, have a little more objectivity
And merit.
And merit. And so if I'm new in recovery, then I probably, the judgment calls I'm making, I'm not doing so with a lot of confidence, and for good reason, because I've made so many judgment calls, in my life based on my addiction, as opposed to, an objective, or basing things on merit, right? I'm not a very good person to be judging, because my judgment is all haywire. So, having had that experience in recovery for a considerable amount of time, and, you can rely on your judgment, but not to the point where you're unwilling to listen to your counsel, as you like to say, right? I mean, it's, sometimes it's like you've said numerous times, it's good to bring your counsel into the picture to maybe clear up your perspective a little bit.
So I want to tie things in because last week I was talking to you, who I consider part of my council, and we were talking about me selling art, and in particular selling art to one individual, and I brought up kind of like through different means trying to get your input and also your guidance, and just talking with you about it to try to kind of figure out an angle. And the overall kind of synopsis I got was like letting it go, even though I was rebelling against in my in my opinion, probably with some rationality, and even you probably could see my side, but then I still kind of I still saw it as you were just indicating letting it go. I talked to another member of my council who's quite business savvy, especially with the arts, and he also indicated letting it go. So I initially had the anticipation of calling this guy to sell him on the art. And then after hearing you and this other member of my council, I made the decision to let it go.
Right.
And I talked to my sponsor, who's also on my council, 2 nights ago. And right in the middle, I was like sometimes I get like, you think I bust your balls. Sometimes I get in, sometimes I really like, I'll pick it up a notch because I'm almost not speaking to him sometimes. I'm speaking with, we're not doing a podcast. B, I'm not keeping his feelings really in check at all because they're not necessarily directed at him. So I can get off on tangents, and I was really, again, this is kind of retrospectively, but if I was really expressing some pretty intense findings and trying to quantify my experiences mixed with my opinion about issues, and he stopped me multiple times and said, speak using the pronoun I. Don't say you. And I thought it was like, are you even fucking listening to me? And I thought it was like, I also thought it was like he was interrupting my channel of thought, and he was also not hearing the fact that I'm trying to express my findings and present them in a way that was coherent. And I just like, I'm not using the right pronouns. However, after rebelling like 3 times, he said, use I. And it started to get like stopping me in my tracks. And I said, okay, fine. I don't even think I said, okay, but I started saying, okay, like I accepted it. I complied. But it was then I just realized that I think my ego was really running a little wild, and it wasn't necessarily what he did by him indicating that I need to use the word I. It is actually paradoxically making me put my ego in check versus saying like you do this, but bringing it all back to me. It really slowed down my train of thought and really put my ego in check. So then I was able to see kind of where he was going with that. And then I was just like, yeah, okay, even if I'm trying to prove a point or make a point, I can do it with a little more humility, and I can do it with, by taking his guidance. And so what that all means is that I've allowed certain people in my life, like him, where if he makes a suggestion, I go with it. And not always, it's not like I'm a robot and he's just giving me instructions, but I've allowed a window for that to occur. If it was anybody else, I'd be like, I'm talking to the wrong person. You're not picking up what I'm putting down. So I have certain people where I'm willing to let that occur. It's just been really filtered and I've navigated who I want in my life at that level and with those kinds of thoughts and stuff like that.
So there's a good example of using your own best judgment on who you're going to listen to, and judging, making a judgment call about who you want to listen to. But for me, at the same time, for me to be judging people in a negative way, like that doesn't serve me. But what does serve me is using my experience, my better judgment, if you will, to determine who are the people that I listen to that tend to lead me in the direction that is most productive for me in all ways. So that's we have to, we all, as human beings, right, we have to have a certain amount of discernment in who is, somebody we want to listen to and who is somebody we don't want to listen to. I think the reading that we, this is kind of like more from the traditions aspect of things, as opposed to it's from the traditions, and it's talking about the group level and all that other stuff, and rule making and all that other stuff. But it comes down to after a time, fear and intolerance subside, and we realize we do not wish to deny anyone his chance to recover. We wish to be as inclusive as we can, never exclusive. And if I think about that as from an individual perspective, I am going to be able to learn more if I keep an open mind to listening to others. For example, the situation you're talking about last week, you would have made the call, you wouldn't been able to let it go, probably, right, unless you talk to a few people about that, right?
Yeah.
And so the direction you got that direction from listening to other people. But also, I know that I get a lot of my direction by just talking, by having somebody to sound like as a sounding board, somebody that I can just talk to and share and just talk. And really, I'm getting my own answers. It almost seems like other people are giving me direction, but in reality, I'm talking to other people who will listen to me, and by listening to me, they will allow me to find my own answers. So that's awesome. I think that's perfect. And when it comes to sponsorship, having somebody who allows us to find our own answers by talking through it.
Just get a dog.
Get a dog?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But see, the problem is a dog is not going to say things like, no, focus on I. No,
but those are two different categories. Just talking to somebody and getting your own answers. It could be anybody, is my point. It could be but helping somebody who helps us get our own, somebody who helps us find out what our choices are, someone who helps us to get our own, to come to the determination of what we really want to do, by steering you in that direction, by saying focus on I. That's really what's happening here. He's not telling, nobody's really telling you what to do, because you're getting an opportunity to share about what's really going on with you.
and somebody who's directing you back to focusing on what is it I am saying, what is it I am doing, and all that, and you know, that's helping you to ultimately find your own answer. Nobody's going to tell you what to do. Nobody's telling you what to do, because I mean, when people tell us what to do, generally speaking, when people tell me what to do, I get my back up. I don't like to listen to people.
I don't with my counsel. That's the whole
okay.
thing. I don't get my back up. I've allowed that network to take place on purpose. If it was anybody else, I'm pretty sure, like, I'm not going to bring up majority of what's going on in my life with just people. I save it for people I care about and that I choose to share with on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I just think that's just, for me, that's the smartest thing I can do. I've learned through experience that when unless I'm on an island and I only got one person I don't know really well, then I guess they're going to hear about a bunch of shit that goes on in my head.
Right. But okay. But I just want to say, like, I want to differentiate, like, is it people telling you what you should be doing, or is it people listening to you as you process, and as you process, you're finding your own answer, or is it somebody saying, no, you should do this? Because I don't think if I just say, like, if you call me up and you said, okay, what should I do? And I said, okay, you should do this. And you hang up and say, okay, thanks very much. I don't think that's how it works. I really think that what happens, the process is that you start talking about it. I might share some experience I have in that regard, or I might say, well, what would happen if you did this, or what would happen if you did that? And then as you process and you talk about it, you come to your own conclusion that, you know what, here's the right answer for me. Here's really what I should do. But, you know, and maybe there is some, you know, some of it is like, okay, you, like, for example, you're talking to your sponsor shares some of his experience with regard to similar situations and what they did that worked and what they did that didn't work. And then you listen to that, right? And then you process it yourself. And then, but ultimately you come with, I think, I shouldn't say you, right? I come up with a conclusion. I come up with a decision that I believe is best for me, works for me. And I think it's a combination of listening to what other people have done, talking through it myself, and making that decision. And I feel good about it when it's over. I go, yeah, I feel good about this. This is right for me. So, and so that's kind of like, you know, it's really helpful for me when people will listen to me. Sure, share their experience. Listen to me, great. Telling me what to do, not so much. Not so much.
As a Golden Gloves boxer, you're very delicate.
Yeah. Remember that the Mike Tyson boxing video? The first guy you fought was Glass Joe. Do you remember that?
No, tell me more. Explain.
The very first guy you fought with, his name was Glass Joe. And he'd be the very first. I mean, it got tougher and tougher and tougher as you go. I think at the end you're fighting Tyson or something.
Oh, you mean Mike Tyson's Punch Out, the game?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I think the very first guy you fought was Glass Joe.
Right.
That was me, Glass Joe.
No, I'm just saying, like, you are like, how I look at you is you're a very strong, courageous man, but you also seem to tiptoe, because, like, I just don't say things as delicately as that. Like, in some ways I agree with you, in some ways I don't. I really value when someone goes, if this was me, this is what I would do. And then from there, I can make my decision. I don't want to beat around the bush and just hear me out. Like, okay, hear me out, then make your conclusion. but don't just fucking listen to me like a therapy session. Like, I'm talking to you for a reason. What the fuck would you do? Like, if you're me, what are you gonna do?
But you know what?
Give me a fucking slack here.
You know what's really hard about that is I'm not you. I'm not exactly in your situation. So I really honestly don't know what I would do if I was you. Nobody can tell me what they would do if they were me because they don't know what it's like to be me. So
Okay.
you can't ultimately, all you can say you can say this is what I would do, knowing all of the factors in my life and what I'm all about. But you know, it's like, I believe, you know, and this is one of my core beliefs, is that I really am in no position to tell people what to do because I don't know I can't experience, I haven't experienced their life and all of their circumstances, so I don't even know what's best for them. So that's, you know, that's like a core belief of that. I am best. It's best for me if I don't tell people what to do. I can share my experience and what I've, you know, and what I have no problem with that. Telling you what I've done in similar circumstances, or you know, that type of thing. But what you should be doing, I know, you know, my favorite saying is pray about it. You know, pray about it.
My favorite saying is going to be, here's what you should do.
Here's what you should do. Okay. Well, that's okay. And you know what? And again, that's you, that's me, and that's okay. And I don't think that maybe there's no right way or there's no wrong way. But my belief is I would like to listen to you talk about it. I would like to listen to all the factors and maybe share some of my experience in doing similar things and what I did for it and what I did in those circumstances, how I handle those situations, similar situations, and how it worked for me or how it didn't work for me. I don't mind sharing that stuff at all, but to say you should do this, I'm not in a place to do that. I'm pretty adamant about that. I'm not in a place to do that.
Okay, so like I almost think this podcast should be called "Here's What You Should Do" versus "Pray About It."
Right.
Okay, right. And so
yeah,
I can only speak for myself. I was in a real big jam about 4 months ago. I selected an individual to come into my life, and I was going to bring them in. It was very impromptu, and it was very last minute because I was in a jam. And this individual has very similar experiences with me as me, considering we both live abroad and we're from Canada, and we're the same age. Okay.
Yep.
I asked him to give me, here's what you should do. So after I gave him my whole scenario, he gave me, here's what you should do. Okay. I needed that. I needed him to go, here's what you should do. Why? Because I was literally in a debacle. It wasn't just like, oh, should I go to the gym or should I read a book? No, I was in a fucking jam.
Right.
When I'm in a jam, I don't want people pussyfooting around, fucking around and just like, well, pray about it. That does not fucking help me one bit right now. I'm losing it. These, like, I'll send you an article later. Like, Thailand changes the rules on a fucking whim. And anyways, so, and it gets really intense. It's not, and sure, you could look at from a distance, but at that time I was in it. So like I wasn't in the best headspace to look at it even objectively and kind of sort things out. And so all arrows led for me to contact somebody and get their advice. Okay. And he gave me 20 minutes of his time, 20 plus minutes of his time. He told me, you should go here, do this, see this individual, and it was like a 20 minute direction list. In that 20 minutes, I figured out exactly what I should do. I did the exact opposite of what he told me to do.
Wow.
Yes. The exact opposite.
So how did that help you?
I was able to sort it out by hearing, so I heard his options, I heard his suggestions, and I heard his lead. I engaged with his logic, and I used my discernment and my direction of what I need to do and what I actually want out of this. And it did not line up with that. And I quickly realized that, no, I don't want to do all of that. I don't want to go through the hoops, and I don't want to make that happen. I am going to drive to Cambodia, funny enough. I took a completely, like, a sharp left turn off, or like a sharp right turn off the on-ramp at the last second. But it was through his, like, do this, and do that. It could have easily been like, God, you're a genius. Thank you so much. I'm going to do exactly that. That sounds perfect. But he's not me. He's not, as you said, like, he doesn't walk the same path as me, actually quite far from it, but he has a brain. And so I let him in, and I could have easily said yes, like how I took the counsel from last week. I could have said, yeah, like that's the right counsel for me. I'm going to use that. But I just find if people are direct and they don't fuck around, it's like, hey, listen, man, because I can also agree with you. People kind of dump their stuff on me. And if I don't have a clear cut, like, hey, you know what? You got to do this, man. Like, if you're going to, like, it's obvious, like, because you just spin it, and that's why I called you delicate. You'll spin it and be like, well, what works for me is if I go to the meetings and then I meet the right guys, versus just going, hey, man, if you're going to make it, you get your ass to a meeting tonight, you get a number, and you follow up with that guy tomorrow, and you meet him for lunch. Like, you just have, you're just more delicate for some reason, whereas I don't want that. I want you to go, and then just before you wipe your ass, call me, and I'll make sure it's okay. And I remember that because that's where I was at year number 2. I needed that, like, at times in my life, I need someone to go, you got to do this. Now, where I am today, I look at that. I don't take it with a grain of salt. I'm engaged with this individual who's giving me their counsel and their direction. I then collaborate, or then I make my own decisions. But I really appreciate, especially when times are critical, or like I'm in the thick of things, just give it to me straight, Doc, and give it, like, what's going to happen? I'm asking you for a reason. I'm not just I'm not asking for you to, like, pat me on the back and say, go pray about it. I'm just not looking for that.
Well, you know, what's great is that, certainly I don't shuffle people out the door and go pray about it and then slam the door. You know, I will share my experience if I have any in that area, and, you know, if asked, and I will, you know, do all that stuff. But at the end of the day, when you're asking me what I should do, like, tell me what I should do, I say, no, you pray about it. And really, I'll tell you what I did. I'll tell you, I can share my experience. But at the end of the day, I'm not telling you what to do. You make that decision. Now get out the door and then go pray about it. So that's fine. But see, because what you just told me, that whole experience with this guy is kind of like, yeah, it's exactly what I'm talking about. He shared his experience, strength, and hope in that regard. He shared what his experience was with that, and you went totally against it because he helped you find your own. He helped you find your own solution. He didn't tell you what to do, because if he told you what to do, and you
20 minutes.
Yeah, but then you did the opposite, because he helped you find your solution, and you see you use your own judgment, your own discernment, and basically that's what I've been talking about the whole time, isn't it?
You're just calling it experience, whereas I think I'm being more direct.
No, it's Glass Joe comes through again. That would be the title of the podcast. Glass Joe comes through again.
I like, for example, let's bring it more personal, and we can wrap it up with this perhaps. But, like, I would ask you, hey, Dad, what would you do if you're me? And I feel like I'm hoping you're gonna not just tell me to pray about it. Or actually, I appreciate that. Let me backpedal a little bit. I need a good prayer as much as the next person. I need to. In other words, if you don't like the word prayer, I'd say I'd muse over it and really get grounded. I would take that as getting grounded, right? I personally I'm comfortable the same way. But then I would also hope that you're following up with like, hey, listen, based on what I'm hearing and making my own diagnosis, here's what I think you should do. I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with that because I'm looking to you for that. And I'm still the one. It's like, hey, I really think you should gamble on red, right? We're at the casino. I say, hey, Dad, what I really want to know what color you think's coming down the pipe. And then I gamble on red and it hits black. I have the ability to go, that was my call. There might be a bad day where I blame you, but fuck, everyone does that. But at the same time, I also have the ability to go, no, I really wanted to gamble. I wanted to lay down the $100. I lost the $100. I'm happy you told me the answer because I was looking for it. So that I got that out of it. But there are so many times in my life where that's what I'm actually looking for. I'm looking for the counsel of somebody to go, hey, listen.
But I can't tell you what to do, and I'll tell you why. I'm not God. I can't tell you what to do. And I'm making a very clear distinction between me and the power, because I'm not telling you what to do. I can tell you what I have done in similar circumstances. I can tell you the results of those things. But if I tell you what to do, then I'm playing God, I believe. So what I really need you to do is to make your own decision based on all the information that's at your disposal. That's great. And pray. And so if you were to say to me, what should I do? One thing I could say to you, okay, so you can't decide whether to call this guy or whether to let it go. And the one thing I could say to you is maybe, okay, what do you think about letting it go for one more day? All right, and see what happens between today and tomorrow. And then so that's like when in doubt we pause and ask. When in doubt or agitated, we pause and ask for direction. Right. So if I pause and ask for direction, I don't think it's really never hurt me too much if I pause and ask for direction when in doubt or agitated. I don't think that's going to hurt me. It's not like, there's certain, there are some things that occur in our lives where we have to make an immediate decision, right? Do I run in the house to save those people from the fire, right? I mean, there are things that happen, but there are in most cases, most of our decisions are come down to, well, it really won't hurt if I just pause and ask for the right direction here. And I don't think I'm in a position to tell people what to do. I can tell I can share my experience, faith, and hope, but I don't want to tell people what to do because that's not my job.
Are you afraid of doing that?
Is it afraid? No, because I'm keeping myself right-sized. Who am I to tell you what to do?
Yeah, but if I'm asking, it's different.
Yeah, but I can tell you again. I'm not asking. You're asking me to make a decision for you. You're asking me to do your job and God's job. I'm not doing God's job.
But that was my whole point of that story. No, I'm using your because I believe in the way that you carry yourself and the way that you take on life. So if I believe in that, what do? You give me what you would do, then I make my own decisions. I don't just automatically take.
Yeah, but I have to. Okay, if I tell you what I'm going to do, that's great. But I can tell you what I'm going to do with the provision that, of course, this is what I would do, not telling you what you should do, but these are because my whole life experience is different than yours. I don't know if I do it the way they. No, here's what I would do under the circumstances. Yeah, I would be willing to share that, but what you would do is going to be different. That's you about that. You should pray about it. Pause and ask.
So now I'm gonna pull a little 180 on you. Are you ready?
Yeah.
For a man that won't tell other people what they're gonna do, didn't you spend 10 years telling mom what she's gonna eat for every meal?
No, I didn't do that. No, she didn't go to me for that. She had other people she went to for that.
No, she also asked you. I remember the whole sea bass fucking incident.
Oh yeah, well that wasn't 10 years. That was one incident. because she was giving up control of eating practices.
Correct. So you would have to make decisions for her.
So we went to a steakhouse and ordered her sea bass, and she didn't like that.
Right, and it still haunts you to this day. So that's what makes me think maybe you're just afraid to make decisions for people.
After that, yeah.
No, I think there's a bit of semantics. I think there's a bit of like the way that you are kind of going around the situation. I'm just saying, I think if we turned off the recorder and I say, hey, I have this situation, what would you do if you were me? By walking me through what you would do if you were me would help me in my experience more than anything else. Then you could put the bow on it. You could still put the bow on it by saying, hey, now go pray about it. I got it. I appreciate it. There's nothing wrong with saying that. I'm just saying the meat of the meal is saying, hey, son, if I were you, I would do this, this, and this. Why? Because I asked you for that. And B, I'd be like, that's really valid. Now I might like it. And then I do believe in my experience that there's been situations where it's like, hey, Dad, should I kick this dog? You'd be like, no, don't kick the dog.
That's right.
So I just feel like, so when you come across like, well, I don't know, well, just like, I don't have that. Yes, you do. So I don't understand why you would take the role of saying, well, I don't know what's best. I'm not God. Well, yeah, don't kick the dog.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, that's what I said. Like, should I, save that drowning person? Right? I mean, of course, you save the drowning person, and I don't have to. You don't have to hesitate to ask. That's. But a situation where, I can. If you ask me, what would you do in this situation? I can tell you that. I can tell you what I would do in this situation. But to tell you to say, what should I do? I'm always reluctant to say that because part of it is I'm not, I'm not God, and I don't want to be the person who thinks he's God and knows what's best for you. Part of the, my humility factor tells me that I should not be telling people what to do. And the other part of it is I have not walked in your shoes. I don't know what's best for you. So there's, those are two parts to it.
Yeah, I think when you just said something that when I ask people, I definitely don't say what, by me saying like, what should I do? I am looking for you to say, here's what I would do. Like, as in you.
Right.
I'm not really looking like, okay, hold my hand and walk me across the street, as much as like you telling me where is the best way to cross the street, at this light or at this bridge, or like if I say, hey, should I save this drowning person? You'd be like, no, there's a major current. And if you go in there, you're going to drown too.
Right.
So like, there are times where it's like, you're going to like, I just feel like there's times where it's like, hey man, don't do that. Or yeah, do that. And it's kind of like, and on the element of like, if I were to ask you, in my experience and knowing how much you love animals, if I said, hey, Dad, should I kick this fucking dog? You'd be like, you will not kick that dog. And so let's put that in the context of a guy who's trying to get sober. I might say it differently than you, but it's like, okay, if you want to stay sober, you've got to do A, B, and C. Versus I feel like your approach is like, well, this is what I did, A, B, and C. I just feel like for me, it registers a little clearer when it's you want to stay sober? A, B, and C. Right? And you're stating that, which sounds like with more humility in one instance, and on the other hand, sounds a little bit like being a little fluffy. Like, I'm not willing to go, you got to do it.
Not willing to go on a limb.
Yeah, just to go, hey, you want to stay sober? Do this, this, and this. We'll get you through the first week, and then we'll come back again, and here's your next time. Like, here's your next list of things that need to happen. If you don't do them, good fucking luck. Like, what's like?
Well, that's what That's what I do. I mean, when it comes to newcomers and what they need to do, I actually do give them specific directions. And here's what you need to do.
Right.
You know, so I do that.
And
So,
I think that can expand, right? That expands into when I go, hey, Dad, should I call this guy? And then there could be the answer where, like, I think there's times where you would go, well, here's what I would do, and based on my own experience, where you've made that decision to converse it with that tone. But then I think there's other times where like, no, don't call the guy. Give it a little bit more and see what happens. That's your call. Like, I'm not saying, like, by you saying that, it really helps me, is my point. It's the same, like, it's the same thing as you just said. Like, okay, if I'm working with the new guy, you got to do this. No, don't go there. Don't go to the bar. Right? Like, you're going to say that, correct? Mm-hmm. So why wouldn't that be the same philosophy where I go, hey, Dad, should I call this? No, don't call the guy. Give him a break. Why do you differentiate between? And that's why I asked, are you afraid to go, hey, don't call the guy, versus like walk me around the fucking park and go, well, and then this, like I do. And again, I'm giving you, because I know there are times, like, if someone's a little unstable, I might use words like, well, actually, in my experience, I would do this, and versus like when someone's just looking for a straight answer, man, straight down the pipe.
Well, you know what, Tyler, you're giving me a lot of scenarios and a lot of what ifs, and you know what, and each one of them is going to be addressed on its own merit, right? And when it comes to asking for direction, you know, if it's something like, you know, what we were talking about last week, and, you know, in terms of a sales pitch, or what, you know, what's the best way to handle this situation, you know, I can give you my experience. I can tell you what has happened to me in similar situations. That's the best I can do. When you're asking for direction, and, you know, should I jump into the whirlpool there and save that person? You know, I can tell you, well, it looks to me like you're probably both going to drown. Or I could say, you know what, if you go over there, you might be able to get that, you know, stick to that guy, and, you know, whatever. And each situation can be different. Each situation it has its own, you know, merit, and you just have to make that judgment call. But I don't want to play God. That's it.
You're right about Glass Joe being the first opponent.
Yeah.
Then goes Bald Bull. Then Don Flamingo, Soda Popinski, Super Macho Man, Mr. Sandman, and Von Kaiser. And then I guess Mike Tyson.
Yeah, I remember Glass Joe. Yeah. Yeah. There you go. Glass Joe. All right. Ready for the serenity prayer?
My final thought is, do you, it's just a question. Yeah. If you're looking for some answers and you go to somebody that you would consider very close to you, so in my terms, counsel, are you looking for somebody to be tender and I'm not indicating weakness at all in these. I'm being really unbiased. I'm being honest. I'm looking for an honest answer. If you're going to somebody with, I know it will also depend on the situation, but in general, are you the kind of person that responds to tenderness, or are you kind of the person that responds to aggressiveness? What do you respond to the best?
Truth. I'm going to go where
you want to be walked around the park first.
No, I'm going to go where I'm going to hear the truth. So I mean, if that's I think probably aggressiveness would be more I'd be leaning to more towards the aggressiveness, because I want to hear the truth, and I want to hear somebody's not going to pull any punches. I'm going to tell them I want to hear the truth, and I'll suck it up and I'll call my sponsor and he's going to tell me the truth. That's all.
But how is it presented?
A matter of fact way, right? A matter of fact way. It's the truth, but it's also the truth according to his, experience. I understand that. Right.
All right. Just trying to figure you out a little bit.
So here you, all right. Good luck with that, because I've been, sober 27 years and I haven't figured myself out yet. So here's the, it's ready for?
Yep.
God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, courage to change the things we can, and wisdom to know the difference. I just wanted to say something here.
Yeah.
I got just this response from one of the podcasts, the last podcast. It says, "OMG, Joe, love your interaction with your son. Sounds like the interactions with my own son, who says the F word all the time." Thanks for sharing.
Such a